Hello again, and welcome back to Silverback Publishing's In Conversation with A.M. Adair. This is all, of course, leading up to the publication of my first novella, Origin Story, and I am so excited to actually have Lisa Cerasoli here with me today because she is wholly responsible, really, for my writing being what it is today. She is my editor. Thank you so much for being here, Lisa.
I the military did a little bit.
Well, you know what?
Well,
I might have to call you on that because I still have all our early emails. So I should probably back this up a little bit in that, I had written the book and I was trying to get traditionally published and things just weren't working. And then my literary manager, Ken Atchity, said, you know what? You could probably use a little editorial love, maybe a substantive rewrite. I was like, at this point, I'm all for it. I'd had a couple other editors kind of play with my manuscript, and I really didn't like the direction things were going. But then he recommended you, and I got an email from you saying, "Hey, did you want to chat?" I was like, "We get to talk. This is awesome." It was November 2018. Still have the emails, and I think we talked that night for about an hour, maybe.
mm-hmm. Sure.
And it was probably one of the most encouraging and refreshing experiences I've had because you didn't pull any punches about what you were going to do, but you took the time to get to know not only me, but what I wanted from the story.
Uh-huh.
I mean, how is that the approach you've always had to doing editing, or is this something you evolved to?
Well, thanks for having me. I out on saying that about 2 minutes back, but I would say yes. I decided when I was going to go into this field that there were two things I always wanted to do, and the first one is I always want to give a prospective author a sample edit no matter how much I grow in my career or how, the field of editing is very interesting because you're behind the scenes no matter how big you get, really. But I told myself, no matter how big I get, no matter how much I grow, no matter how busy I am, I always want to give an author a sample edit because I think that the author editor collaboration is very intimate. So that's one thing I always decided. I'm like, give somebody 30 minutes of your time on paper first, and then offer them the opportunity to meet by phone if you can't meet in person. I mean, 95% or more of all my clients I've never even met in person, right? So those are the that I just wanted to do. Now, granted, I didn't know what other editors were doing, but now that I've been in this field for about 15 years, I realize that not everybody gets that, and everybody works differently. And also, by the way, not everybody even cares about talking on the phone with me. So a lot of my authors I never meet. They see my sample edit. They don't need to talk on the phone, and we just move it right along. But I do really like speaking on the phone to someone because you get to know their personality. You get to know why they were compelled to write a book, because writing a book is no joke, as you know. I mean, you devote your whole life to it. They're all passion projects. Even if you're doing it for your career as, say, a therapist or, something else, it's a how-to book or it's nonfiction, it's still a passion project. You're putting everything you have into it. So getting to know the author, to me, is key. And your novels are fiction in a way. I don't need to get to know an author that's writing a work of fiction. It's not like I'm helping you with your memoir, but it certainly helps to understand what means the most to you in your story. Yep. Where you want to compromise and where you sort of feel like you've been maybe violated creatively. You can steer of things like that, right? And you also want to know a person so that you can be honest with them as an editor. I mean, it's just a series of painful truths, really. Like it really is, with like one compliment wedged in there, and then 10 more painful truths about your writing, one little compliment wedged in there. So want to develop trust and this is the way to do it.
I have lauded you countless times, and I don't think everybody truly understands that. But most of the time, my lauding comes right after saying, after I crawled under my desk and cried in the fetal position after getting your feedback, and then I kind of dust myself off, and I come like, okay, all right, but you made me better. And I mean, unequivocally, I can see the difference from, the first book, my debut with Ellie Anderson, to, all the way to now to Origin Story, because you've been with me through my series. And then of course when I came time to do my novella, I'm an addict. I'm a full on addict. So I was calling you like, please, Lisa, could you look at it, please? It's like at this point, it's such a collaborative relationship. I don't know if I could put out a book without you.
I certainly hope not. Because I'm addicted too. I will say that this is truly, and I'm not saying this because I'm on this show, but this is how it's supposed to be, right? You're supposed to have a relationship with your editor, to the degree where you feel comfortable writing anything and showing it to them, and you understand that it's going to come back, and no matter what it says, it's going to be an opportunity to make the story better. At the end of the day, I think what's so great about what we both do is that we are both on the side of the story. And that's a really hard thing for a lot of new writers. I was a new writer too in the late 90s when I started writing before I became an editor. And it's a really hard thing to understand that any notes you get are because you want the story to be all it can be, and you can see what the story can be. Meeting you and being able to talk to you on the phone and being able to get to know you, even in the comments as we edit together too, that sort of helps me understand how far I can go with my editorial notes. So believe it or not, I don't edit any other manuscript the way I edit yours, right? Because I
can believe that. I'm certifiable, so you can go full on crazy with me, and I understand.
So exactly your limits, and you in that you don't really have limits as editing. It's kind of incredible. It's my dream. It's any editor's dream to know that they can give their client a note, and at the other end of that, the author is going to do everything they can to either follow that note or do something better. But they understand that that is a part of the book, the story, the character that needs a little bit of work. So if Lisa's way isn't the right way, and I think I try to convey that in my notes.
You've actually said that exactly. Like, here's Lisa's way. Do it Emma's way.
Yeah. Way. If your way is better than my way, we want your way. So that's what we're always going for, the best way to do something.
And I appreciate that. And I didn't realize how truly unique our relationship was until last year. I was doing Killer Nashville, and I was on a panel about working with editors. And just listening to everybody else on the panel, which there were a couple editors and a couple of authors, and then listening to the questions we were getting from the audience, it quickly became clear that most people do not have a very good relationship with their editor. It is a clearly, let's call it a transactional relationship. And I think that made me appreciate not only what we have even more, but at the same time, it made me wonder, is that all people expect from editors? I mean, when you are sitting down with a client, do they just expect you, like, just give me notes, give it back to me, and get out of my life? Is that usual?
I actually get a fair amount of books that have been edited in that way. And I think that it's perfectly acceptable to polish someone's book. As in, for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to polish your 80,000 word book, and then I'm going to hand it back to you, because and a polish, for anybody who doesn't know, means mostly correcting typos, some grammar issues, maybe a few repeat words here and there. It's usually not ironing out big chunks of a story. That would not be a polish. So polish is safe, right? You're handing it to someone who looks through Merriam-Webster and follows Chicago, style guide all day long. And then you're just getting it back with all the right terms. And sometimes your THEs are TEH, and sometimes you drop an of, right? That's what a polish. But anything beyond a polish, which most books that are written, even by me, need some level of structural editing, right? Because no matter how good we get or how long we do this, we still can't separate ourselves from that story, correct? So there's
Right.
always going to be one or two sentences or one or two paragraphs or one or two pages, even with the best writers, that were still written inside our heads,
Mm-hmm.
that haven't translated to the reader yet. So, I mean, with something like that, unless you know that you can write exactly like the other person and this person so well, you need to have a collaboration. You need to have a back and forth. So it's different for everyone. I know when I work with you, I can do at least 50 pages at a time, right? And I can hand it back to you and you can tackle 50 pages. And then we just go back and forth. It's really easy, maybe even 75. But with some newer writers, people's first books now, then I'm doing maybe 10 or 15 just to start. So they start to get a feel for it and they start to understand how intense the collaboration actually is.
Yeah, it is. I vividly remember, the collaboration during the first book. So it's funny you said that because I'm pretty sure I you maybe did 8 to 10 pages at a time because it was very notes heavy and I had a lot to learn.
Yes.
Um, and I was so grateful for that. Part of me was like, okay, obviously I had no idea what I was doing because similar to what you said, it was like I wrote a bunch of stuff in the military. I was like, I can write, I got this. I don't got this. This is different. Trying to actually write a novel and tell a story, it was a whole new animal, and you took the time to teach me what I was doing wrong, and I will be forever grateful for that. But you didn't start out as an editor either. You had a very interesting career path to get into editing. If I'm not, did you start as an actor? Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Now,
Got you. I knew it. Yeah, okay.
yes, no, it's true. I did. I started doing theater as a kid, and in a very roundabout way, you probably, I don't know if you would know this. I was in pre-med for 2 years at Michigan State. Then I transferred to Arizona State and I was in an architecture program for a year and I ended up getting a theater degree. And so, yeah, in case you're wondering what kind of background your editor has,
It
it's
makes it
not
so much
right.
better. So much better.
It's just not in writing anyway. um and yeah, it was my dream to go to Los Angeles and to act, so I did that for a while. And I was on a soap opera at General Hospital for a couple of years and I did quite a few nighttime shows. I was lucky enough to be a working actor for the near 10 years that I was in Los Angeles. I did really fun soap opera in Mexico where I lived there for a while, and I met a lot of great people. I love that city, but that's where I met my literary manager. As soon as I started writing, in fact, I was on a show when I felt like I had free time, and you can't, when you're under contract at one show, you can't audition for other stuff. So my manager at the time said, "Would you just shut up and go write something?" And and that's how I met my literary manager, as you know, Ken Atchity.
Mm-hmm.
And because I wrote a script and then he read it and he actually said to me, "This, I like it." He wanted to rep me, but he said, "It reads like a novel. You should novelize this." And at the time, I will tell you, I was not a big reader other than scripts. I loved scripts. I read very few books. I only read the required reading throughout high school and college. I'm not kidding. Yeah, and so I said to Ken, "That sounds like a lot of words, and I don't really do a lot of words. And I'll be damned if within 2 weeks of me trying to novelize that script that I did not get hooked on writing. I mean, I got hooked. Do you remember the moment when you got hooked? You should tell us
Yes.
your story now. When did you get
I,
hooked?
I actually I think I got hooked the moment I stopped fighting the story and let the story evolve